importance of raising chickens. One way that I have been able to talk about this is by raising chickens myself. I right now have 11 chickens and each of them are named. I have them all named and they are all different kinds of chickens. One thing that I found very interesting about that is each of them have a different personality themselves. So they're basically like little kids, but it's always fun to play with them. And so with the chickens and their different breeds, they each have different pieces of them. So with my Polish chickens, they have a like bouffant on their head and it kind of makes them look like they have a mullet. With my Easter eggers, they lay different kinds of eggs. So instead of having a brown egg or a white egg, they lay green eggs or blue eggs. Now, with raising chickens, if you get them from a young age, they usually will be very scared and loud. They're very loud. So one tip would be to make sure that they're very socialized with people, with each other, because you can't get one chicken. You have to get them in groups because they are very social animals. And the best way to keep them social and have the best personality chicken, I guess, is to keep them social. When they are growing up, though, they tend to be very adventurous and messy. So with age and growth, the mess and exploration of side of them becomes larger. So you want to make sure to upgrade their space and move them from their starter home, which tends to be a like box kind of with just like wiring on as like a top, and they'll need a constant light because they can't regulate their own temperature. But when they grow, they will need a small chicken coop, which is basically what most people would envision, just smaller than regular. And they need that because they need to get into a routine for their adult life. And that would include like going up into their house for like security at nighttime. And they have boxes which they lay eggs in. And the boxes they're not used to being in boxes, so they get used to that with the small chicken coop. The best way to tell that a chicken is all grown up is by them laying eggs. And usually that's really the best indicator because size, they can be a very big teenage chicken or a really small adult chicken. So with that, the best way to keep them laying is with sunlight. Of course, they love sunlight with laying. That's why summertime is their best months for laying. But in the winter months, which is usually harder to get them to lay, there's artificial light that you can get, which you can just use like a heat lamp or just a lamp in general. Also things that can help with the best eggs or bigger eggs would be large amounts of protein and calcium in their diet. And they also need grit, which is rocks sort of, or little pebbles. They can get that from the ground or you could give it to them in their diet. And so with grit, they don't have a way to really digest their food. So they use the grit to kind of get through all like the enzymes and everything that they need. They also need scratch, which is just a bunch of like grains and extra stuff for their diet, but they do need that, but you don't want to give it to them in a large quantity. It's not like their food. It's just about 10% of their diet. 10% of their diet is going to be scratch. is usually used to help encourage the scratching of like scavenging sort of, and that is helpful because then they can get their own grit and you don't have to provide that. Now, with all that information that I have provided, I would encourage each and every one of you to decide to get urban chickens, and it is the best way to find a new hobby, some new friends, and relieve some stress. They also will save you some trips to the grocery store for eggs and save some money with that. Thank you for listening.